All right, is 4 the charm? We're talking about the number of special sessions when it comes to the Texas legislature and some of the things that Governor Abbott wants them to deal with. Scott Braddock is the editor extraordinaire of the Quorum Report. Scott joins us now live, as he often does. Always appreciate your time, Scott. I want to talk about
Good to see you.
The priorities haven't changed for any of these special sessions. It's still border security and school vouchers. My question is are school vouchers kind of taking up all the oxygen in the room? Are they making it impossible to deal with border security?
No, I think what's happening with border security is that the personalities in the room and the personalities in the two rooms, in the House and the Senate, have really been clashing in a way that's completely unproductive, even for Republican primary voters' priorities. And that, of course, is border security at the very top of that list. That's the thing that inflames the Republican base the most. Is immigration and border security, and that's been true for more than a decade, probably going about 15 years back or more. That's the thing that the voters who decide who these politicians, are going to be in these offices. That's what they want to see happen. And I think right now, those personalities, Lieutenant Governor Patrick and Dade Phelan, the Speaker, the ones who have been clashing, they're setting their personal differences, which have been many, aside to try to get this border security deal done. You saw earlier in the week that both the House and Senate filed identical bills about border security and a border wall. And so that's on track. When it comes to vouchers, that's not a partisan fight. That's a bipartisan fight situation where you have Republicans and Democrats who are against school vouchers, and that's what makes it so complicated.
Well, and that's my question. So border security may be a priority for many in the Republican Party, but is it a priority for the governor? It doesn't seem like it is. It seems like school vouchers is one, and then you put border security after that. Do we see a deal on the voucher system?
I don't think we do. And I will say one other thing about border security is I'm not shocked by a lot anymore at the Texas Capitol, but I was slack-jawed at the end of the last special session when Republicans could not come to agreement about a border security crackdown. As I mentioned, that is the thing that their real bosses, the voters in the Republican primary, that's what they want them to do, whether it's reasonable or not. And of course, there'll be a bitter partisan fight about it. But on vouchers, look, there has been some acknowledgement by the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the speaker. All of them have said a version of this, that school vouchers cannot pass in the Texas House without a public education finance bill attached to it. Read that to mean more money for public schools has got to be attached to a voucher plan for it to even have a chance of passage in the House. Now, as you know, last week there was a new version of a bill that would offer more money for public education along with a smaller school voucher program. That's all crammed into one bill. And what happens, Steve, when they put these things together, when they put a school finance bill together, what happens is the members of the House will get an analysis from the author of the bill that shows the winners and losers under the school finance bill. What it is they'll take a look at which school districts around the state will get more money or less money under this new school finance plan. And that's the kind of thing that is the thing that often either spells, a potential victory on school finance or a failure, because that's where the members of the legislature start ripping each other up about who's getting more money or less money. And so that's what makes a school finance bill hard to pass, even without a voucher attached to it. And it's my understanding, I was talking to some of the GOP members of the House who have been holdouts on school vouchers, and they were telling me that they're the ones who are getting the short end of the stick under that analysis, that the school districts in their parts of the state are not getting a whole lot more money for public education. And you would think that if the governor and the leadership in the House, if they were trying to change votes from Republican no votes to Republican yes votes, that they would be getting some of the most money for their school districts, but that doesn't seem to be happening. And you may see this when that bill comes to the floor, whether it's the Senate proposal or the House proposal, you may see an amendment proposal made to strip vouchers out of that bill and just pass something that offers more money for public schools around the state. And I think if an amendment like that is offered on the floor of the House, there are probably the votes to adopt that.
Wow. But then there's no guarantee that the Senate would pass it or the governor would sign it.
And we're right where we were before. That's right.
Exactly. Is this is the breaking point on school vouchers come down to rural communities? I mean, I've heard that before, that, obviously rural high schools and rural elementary schools are so huge in a lot of these small towns. Is that where the divide is?
I think it's worth saying that a school voucher plan would, if it was adopted, it would mean that the state would be on the hook for that in perpetuity to offer these, basically what amounts to coupons or grants for private school tuition for people to take their kids to private schools. And that would mean that there's less money in the public school finance system for all schools in Texas. It hurts all the ISDs all across the state, not just the rural districts. But you're right. It's most acutely felt in rural districts. And the reason for that is because the ISD in small towns, it's often the number one employer. It's also often the backup employer. I mean, where I grew up in Wharton County, Texas, if you tried to get a job somewhere else and that job didn't work out, the school district would probably always hire you to do something, drive the bus, be the janitor, be support staff, whatever. There's also sort of a safety net in some of these communities. And it's also the home of Friday Night Lights. So think about the difference between the politics in Texas on this versus Florida, where Florida, most of the high school football teams that are competitive and win championships, those are private schools. But that's not the case in Texas, right? So these programs, receiving less money because of a school voucher program, that's not going to be acceptable to a whole lot of people. And I'll say one other thing about it. In Texas, the teacher vote is a swing vote. If you think about states like Michigan or California, where they have strong unions, those are basically all Democrats. But in Texas, the teacher vote, it can go for Democrats or Republicans. And think of it this way, in small towns in Texas, there are no Democrats to vote for often. So most teachers in those places are voting for Republicans, and Republicans cannot take those votes for granted. So anything that hurts public ed going forward would have those folks thinking, twice about whether they still want to support the GOP.
All right, we'll follow it and see if, the governor gets something he likes or if we have more special sessions to come. Scott Braddock is the editor of the Quorum Report. Also, like me, you can tell he is participating in No Shave November, and I think we're going to have him on a little bit later.
I think I got you beat, but yeah, let's do an update later.
All right, yeah, we'll compare the gray coming up a little bit later in the month. Scott, thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Keep up to date with all of San Antonio's top news, weather, and so much more by clicking the like and subscribe buttons below. And once again, thanks for watching KSAT.